Like, the fact that I can take a class like that.
I feel like people have this feeling that slavery was, a couple hundred years ago. We should be back on track, but I feel like people forget that we weren't all holding hands and singing Kumbaya after slavery ended. Like, there was Jim Crow laws, and that ended in, the 60s? So we have about 50 years to get to the top, to where we're supposed to be. We were put in this place. It wasn't just us being lazy or unintelligent that got us here. It was because we were oppressed.
If we want to change the BCC, if we want to change the world, we're going to have to make a difference in ourselves and not rely on other people to do that for us.
If we can build towers that are almost taller than a mountain, if we can make cities like New York, if we can make the 7 wonders of the world, I think we can move past prejudice. I have faith in that.
So the first step to any problem is, first of all, acknowledging that it exists, and this is what this video is, acknowledging that there's a problem at BCC. And the second step is, to think twice before you say something, to not perceive people in a certain way just because of their race. We need to think more, because our actions really can hurt people.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Some of the things these kids experience at the Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. Very difficult at times. But that's what we face today, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we face today. So, I had said that we were going to give you the interview with Bree Newsome, who climbed the flagpole and took down the South Carolina Confederate flag. Now let's listen to that interview on Democracy Now! With Bree Newsome.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Democracy Now! Recently returned from South Carolina, where the massacre of 9 African Americans by a racist alleged shooter who embraced the Confederate flag has renewed protests to remove the flag from the state capitol grounds in Columbia. Last Tuesday, South Carolina state lawmakers agreed to debate removing the flag later this summer. By early Saturday morning, a 30-year-old African-American woman named Bree Newsome, equipped with a helmet and climbing gear, scaled the 30-foot flagpole and unhooked the Confederate flag.
You come against me with hatred and oppression and violence. I come against you in the name of God. This flag comes down today.
Bree Newsome recited Psalm 27 in the Lord's Prayer as she brought the flag down. As soon as she reached the ground, she was arrested, along with James Tyson, who'd stood at the bottom of the pole as she climbed. Bree Newsome's action went viral, was seen around the world. Her bail fund has raised over $120,000. Ava DuVernay, director of the Oscar-nominated film Selma, was among the many to hail her, writing on Twitter, quote, "I hope I get the call to direct the motion picture about a black superhero I admire. Her name is Bree Newsome." But within about an hour, workers had raised a new Confederate flag at the Capitol. On Saturday, as funeral services began for Cynthia Hurd, a 54-year-old librarian killed in the Charleston massacre by the suspect, Dylan Roof, Confederate flag supporters rallied in front of the newly replaced flag on the Capitol grounds in Columbia. Anti-racist counter-protesters also attended, asking passing drivers to honk the flag down. Down the road at 2 p.m. at the Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center in Columbia, a bond hearing was held for Bree Newsome and James Tyson. They were charged with defacing state property, which can carry 3 years in prison and a $5,000 fine. About a dozen supporters waited in the lobby of the jail for their release. I spoke to some of them. I asked Tamika Lewis to talk about what Bree Newsome's action meant to her.
You could see my glee. It was one of the most liberating and beautiful moments that I've known in all my 25 years of life, besides my daughter being born. To see that flag actually come down and all of the things that it represents being taken down by a strong black woman was one of the greatest symbols, symbolic images that one person could ever witness, I feel, yeah.
Why don't you tell us your name?
Hi, I'm Carol Parker.
And you came out here on your own to the detention center?
I did. I came out here to show my support for Bree. This is not her battle alone, that we stand with her. She did what many people have not had the courage to do, and that we are proud of her, that we support her. Whatever she needs, we are here for her, and I wanted her to know that, and that's why I came. So it doesn't matter how you feel about whether she should or should not have done it. She did it. It's done, and it needs to come down. And she has done what our governor hasn't had the courage to do, what our General Assembly hasn't had the courage to do. She went up there and did what had to be done when it needed to be done.
Carol Parker and Tamika Lewis speaking outside the jail in Columbia, South Carolina. Bree Newsome and James Tyson were both released Saturday afternoon after supporters posted the requisite $300 of their $3,000 bond each. I'm joined right now in New York by Bree Newsome and Jimmy Tyson. We welcome you to Democracy Now!
Thank you.
So, well, why don't we begin at the beginning? Bree, can you talk about why you decided to do what you did? And, you know, where you come from, the groups you're involved with, and how you've been organizing.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I come from the South. Like a lot of people, especially a lot of African Americans, my ancestors came through Charleston slave market. And so the Confederate flag is as a symbol of, you know, folks trying to kind of hold us into the place of bondage that we had been before, and our struggle the past 150 years of trying to come out of that place. And so it was, I'm sure I was like a lot of people sitting at home looking at the flag flying and wish I could just take that down, you know, but had no idea if it was possible and how possible it would be. I had even contemplated just on my own, just attempting to climb it, knowing full well that I wouldn't make it up the pole, and just let them arrest me just to make that statement. I mean, that's how strongly I felt about it. And so then when I, you know, ended up connecting with other activists there in North Carolina and found out that, you know, there were people who actually did know how to, you know, had a plan for how we could possibly scale the pole. And, you know, there were many roles to fill in the plan. And one, of course, included, you know, needing someone to actually climb up. And, of course, that was a high risk of arrest, we knew. And so after, you know, some prayer and really thinking about it, I decided to volunteer.
You're from Charlotte, North Carolina?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's more than risking arrest. I mean, there are these Confederate flag rallies, a lot of guns in South Carolina. Were you fearful, both people who are not law enforcement and people who are?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the retaliation piece was much scarier to me than arrest. I was even thinking about the possibility of being up on the flagpole, and you never know who might walk by. Quite frankly, you know, you could get shot. You just really don't know, especially when you're up there and harnessed to the pole. I mean, you're in a highly vulnerable position. And so I really did have to, you know, pray on it quite a bit. But part of why it was so important to me to do that was because to me that flag also represents just fear. You know, it's racial intimidation, it's fear. These are the same things that they would fly when people were marching for integration. They would be flying that flag because it's a sign of intimidation, which is undergirded by violence and has been undergirded by violence ever since the failure of Reconstruction. And so, you know, that's part of what Tamika was speaking to have a black woman climb up there, whether it was me or someone else, to climb up there and take that down was a strong sign of, you know, we refuse to be ruled by this fear.
And Jimmy Tyson, how did you get involved?
Well, I guess I was approached about a week beforehand, and a friend came up to me and he said, "Hey, I've got the scouting report. I think we're going to do something big." And I was like, "Let me take a look at it." And I was like, "Oh man!" I realized real rapidly. I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna be trouble," you know. But I was like, I was so game for it. I was like, "Yeah, let's do this. This is ridiculous." I'm so, like Bree was talking to, like, I'm so sick of not only the fear and intimidation that white supremacy brings to our culture, you know, but also just that you know, they wouldn't even take it down for the funeral. They wouldn't even lower it to half-mast, you know, is my interpretation. So it's like, that's completely unacceptable. And when given an unjust law like that, it's really important that we stand up for what's right, you know, especially being a white person, you know, that maybe has their eyes open. And like, I'm going to try to do everything I possibly can, you know, to make sure that justice and equality are served in our country, but also, you know, just in my locality, you know. It's critically important. It's critically important that white people actually put some skin in the game, because racism is unacceptable. White supremacy is unacceptable. Hate crimes are unacceptable. We can't live in this culture anymore.
So were you going to climb the flagpole also?
No, I was willing to, but I think that the messaging behind having a black woman take it and a white person, take it from her and hold it, and it's almost speaking to, first of all, we need more black heroes in our culture, but also simultaneously, white people need to step up. We need to step up, and we actually have to be a part of making the change, because guess what? White supremacy and racism is perpetuated by white people, right? So it's our responsibility as well to play a role in dismantling racism.
Are you from North Carolina?
I am. I'm from Charlotte as well.
So we're going to talk more about where you come from, but I want to take us to that morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's Saturday morning. The funeral for Reverend and State Senator Clemente Pinckney had just taken place. Over 5,000 people were there in Charleston. Were you there, Bree?
No, I wasn't. I did watch the eulogy the night before. In fact, somebody, who knew that I was about to do this, they're like, you have to watch this. You have to watch this, and really think on it. And it was just, I was hoping that somehow they would have the dignity to take the flag down before, his casket passed by. But that day, all the events of that day just further confirmed for me that we had to do this.
The Alabama governor did, the Republican governor
Yes.
of Alabama, without ceremony, without saying anything beforehand. The workers came and took the flags down off the Capitol
And I
grounds.
feel that's how it should be done, quite frankly. I don't think that symbol deserves the dignity of debate. It doesn't deserve that. It's a flag of treason and it's a flag of hatred.
Let's go to President Obama delivering the eulogy for the Honorable Reverend Clemente Pinckney at the College of Charleston on Friday.
Removing the flag from this state's capital would not be an act of political correctness. It would not be an insult to the valor of Confederate soldiers. It would simply be an acknowledgement that the cause for which they fought, the cause of slavery, was wrong. The imposition of Jim Crow after the Civil War, the resistance to civil rights for all people, was wrong. It would be one step in an honest accounting of America's history. A modest but meaningful balm for so many unhealed wounds. It would be an expression of the amazing changes that have transformed this state and this country for the better because of the work of so many people of goodwill, people of all races striving to form a more perfect union. By taking down that flag, we express God's grace.
That was President Obama on Friday, giving the eulogy for Reverend Pinckney, who was the pastor of Mother Emanuel of the Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, where 9 parishioners, 9 churchgoers were gunned down on June 17th. As the alleged shooter, Dylan Roof, said he wanted to kill black people, according to survivors. And then we saw the manifesto. It's believed it was written by him online, as he further explained. Bree Newsome, listening to President Obama there, your thoughts, and as you did on Friday before you started your climb.
Yeah, just absolutely spot on. And I think that's why it was so moving to people. I mean, one of the things that was so tough about the immediate aftermath of the massacre was not just the violence itself, but the apparent like obfuscation about what had actually just happened, that it was a terrorist attack. You know, there are a lot of things being thrown out. Yes, it's an issue of gun violence. You know, yes, it's an issue of, the church being targeted, but it's specifically a black church. And I think it's important that we not remove it from the historical context, like really understand what that means. This exists in a long line of terrorist attacks against African Americans in this country. That's what